This weekend, more out of curiosity than anything else, I saw, and because I'm a cinephile and I find the time spent watching a movie, especially in a movie theater, has a certain relaxing effect upon me. I know some people don't think highly of me for that, but that's just the way I am. It's the way I've always been. You know, we all have to have our pastimes. We all have to do our things to get us more in a more uh, centered. Should I say centered perspective, or does that sound too flaky? We all have to do what we have to do, and yes, it ends. So, I end up giving, half of a penny to Hollywood um, with each purchase that I make. I mean, most of it goes to the local theater people. Uh, and even some people say, well, even that's too much. But what can I tell you? If you don't like it, you can just unsub. But anyway, uh, if you're that puritanical about it, and I know some of you might be, and I believe that, and believe me, I know Hollywood is evil. I know that very, very, very well. But I was very interested, preamble aside, in seeing Ghostbusters Afterlife. Um, and I wanted to check it out just because I remember when the first movie came out, when Ghostbusters came out in 1984, it was such a sensation. It really caught caught everyone by storm. It was just it was for the time. Now you look back, the effects are kind of cheesy, but for the time, it was really kind of scary. In addition to being funny, there was this interesting dynamic going on where there were these ghosts, and some of them are goofy and not that scary at all, but some of them were really scary. And then there was this sort of apocalyptic occult theme that was happening, that was unfolding. At the same time, there were these goofy looking guys who called themselves Ghostbusters, but who actually had this technology that tracked down ghosts and was able to imprison them. And they had some highly regarded comedians like Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray, uh, and so it was just this really interesting uh, combination of elements that all came together. It was science fiction, it was a little bit of horror, it was definitely a lot of comedy, um, but it was neat. It was really a fun movie experience for a lot of people. Um, and so ever since the first Ghostbusters, of course, there was Ghostbusters 2, which wasn't as good, which did well, but wasn't as good. And then I think there were all kinds of contract disputes. I don't know all the inside baseball stuff, but I know that Bill Murray can be a difficult person, apparently, from what I've heard, and that he was the holdout. And so there was never a Ghostbusters 3. I know there was a cartoon show, and there were comic books and stuff, so the lore went on. I didn't really follow the lore, but I'm aware of it. And then, of course, in 2016, there was this awful, awful idea. This was just right at the cusp of the woke years. But this terrible idea to remake Ghostbusters, this classic that was so beloved, but instead of it featuring four guys, this time it features four women. Uh, and they have a like a bimbo secretary who's a guy. So it's like, ooh, the shoe's on the other foot. Feminism, man. Oh yeah. It was just so in your face with all of that, and it got hated on so with such fervor. I haven't seen the movie, but I don't want to see the movie. So, and I'm happy for the backlash that it received. I'm unapologetic about any of that, even though sometimes maybe it got a little bit out of hand. I don't know what's her name, Leslie Jones, needed to be insulted for being ugly or something like that. I don't know if we had to get personal with it, but just the whole concept of, let's take this venue, this thing that had been part of pop culture for a long time, and just take the men out and put women in instead, and that's it. That's your big concept. That's your big idea. Nobody really liked that. Nobody but the wokies liked that idea. So it pretty much flopped, and it was generally thought of badly, except by the certain elements of the critical establishment. And this was right at the beginning. We know where there was starting to be this increasing bifurcation between those who think of themselves as above the common folk, the critical class. I mean, in a sense, I guess critics always think of themselves that way. But when it became just this kind of part of this very unpleasant, I would even say toxic culture war, which fed into everything else that was going on starting in 2015, 2016. And I need not really elaborate on any of that. And it's only gotten worse. It's only, things have only gotten more and more egregiously hostile, primarily with the critical would-be overclass. They've gone from looking down their noses at the so-called hoi polloi to positively hating them and wishing death upon them. I mean, you think I'm lying? Check out the way that some pro-Baj people, the kind of tweets that they put out there about how, and some of the things that they're saying about people who decide not to opt for a certain medical procedure that I will not go into any more detail about right now. That's just symptomatic of the extent to which their contempt has become something worse than contempt. I think it's become hatred, rage, and of course the other side responds in kind. Each action invites us an equal and similar reaction. So here we are. This is where we're at. Now, Ghostbusters Afterlife, this new Ghostbusters movie, is interesting because it seems to have been made with this idea that let's just regather the thread of the original, what made the original Ghostbusters such a hit with people, and what made it something that brought people together, to laugh and to jump in their seats and just to have a good time at the movies. They sort of said, let's just go back to that. Now, of course, most of the cast of the original movie, one of them is dead, unfortunately, and the other three are significantly older. So it presented a challenge. What are you going to do? How are you going to bring back this thematic material and bring it back in a way that, unlike the 2016 movie, which seemed to have been made to be divisive, or was made to subvert expectations, or say, aha, you think of Ghostbusters as men, but here they're women, and we're replacing your idols, ha ha ha. Instead of doing that, being continuous with the original story, which was generally apolitical. And I know people say you can't be apolitical now. Everything you have to come down on one side or another. And if you are apolitical, then people call you a Trump supporter, and and berate you. So it's a very tiresome time that we're living in, as I know we all agree. But it seemed that the makers of this movie was the son of what was the I can't remember. Reitman is the last name, but it was his father who produced and directed, I believe, the original Ghostbusters, and now his son has picked up the torch for this latest Ghostbusters movie. And the latest Ghostbusters movie completely ignores the 2016 abomination. And it resets things. It moves it out of interestingly enough, moves it out of the big city, because cities are a very divisive place these days. New York, you say New York City today, what's the first thing you think of? Vaccine passports and all of the controversy and all of the bad vibes that surround just big cities in general have become magnets of negativity. So they move it to the heartland, and they find some sort of contrived way to find continuity. And I'm not going to go into the plot right here of the new movie, but they find a way for it to make sense that things get reset in rural Oklahoma at this old rickety house, this dirt farm that one of the Ghostbusters, that Egan, the one who's now no longer with us, the actor Harold Ramis, is no longer with us. Anyway, they have a new cast, and one of the new, they have one of the Stranger Things kids is there, and there are a couple of like weak gestures to the woke crowd, like the Stranger Things kid has a mulatto kind of teenage love interest, which I don't know. It's a little annoying, but that they feel they have to do something like that. But I don't really care that much. But the movie, I think, without going into great detail about it, I found it to be a satisfying sort of denouement, if you will, of what was started with Ghostbusters. Of course, there's all kinds of what they call fan service. There's all kinds of references back to things that were in the original movie, like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And of course, the original Ghostbusters show up, as you would figure they would. And but it's ultimately a movie that really brings good vibes back to the movie theater and back to the franchise and back to it was kind of a relief to watch and see it all resolve in this way, and see the good vibes predominate. And I say that as someone who I'm not a huge fan. I'm not huge on the franchise. Like I said, I remember the original and what a sensation it was, and the cultural impact that it had and has had. And it's not something that you would have ever thought, in the mid 80s, would you have ever thought, is Ghostbusters, are they going to make Ghostbusters into some political football? Is this going to become some weirdly political, controversial thing? Are they going to try to, take some feminist twist with this? Of course, you wouldn't have thought that with Star Wars either. You wouldn't have thought that with a bunch of franchises in the 80s when, It was all about entertaining, and it wasn't about pandering, and it wasn't about virtue signaling. That just wasn't something you saw big studios doing with major motion pictures. They did, and again, I'm not I'm not praising Hollywood. Don't let anybody hear me believe that or think that I'm doing anything of the kind, or say that the business was ever not filthy. But at least as far as the final product goes, there was a more of a a really inclusive notion. Like let's make a movie and not worry about ticking all these boxes that'll make us seem virtuous, but let's make a movie that people will enjoy, and that will bring will make them forget about their lousy lives for a couple of hours, and just have fun, and they'll jump, and they'll laugh, and they'll all the just the classic popcorn entertainment kind of deal. And so this movie is like a return to that. It's a return to that vibe. Is it a great movie? No, I would not say it is a great movie, but there's something great about the gesture that it makes. There's something great about how it just seeks to bypass all of the crap, with a few minor things here and there, like I was saying, the mulatto girlfriend. But mostly, again, it's just popcorn entertainment, and it's fun, and yes, there are some moments there are some touching moments. There's some they tug at the heartstrings a little bit, not too badly, because I don't like that either. I don't like really emotionally manipulative movies, but they do it in such a way that seems appropriate. So I guess I find I'm happy that this movie exists. Okay, because I don't like the things that have happened to our culture over the last 6, 8, 10 years. I don't like how everything is divisive. I don't like how everything is getting in your face and subverting your expectations, and taking your heroes and sticking a thumb in their eyes, and and saying, "Ha, we're killing off. Ha, we're making your heroes into idiots now. Don't you? Doesn't this make you feel lousy like they did with The Last Jedi?" And at all. So thank God for it's not like I said, I'm not going to say it's a great movie. And if you never were into Ghostbusters, the first movie, you probably wouldn't have any interest in seeing it. And I'm not saying it's a must see or anything, but I really am happy that it got made, and that it seems to be doing fairly well, that it had a good opening weekend, considering the circumstances that because of this phony this so-called pandemic, and all of the cultural situations that it has caused. People are still not going out to the movie theater as much as they used to, but it still had a very strong opening weekend in spite of that. So again, I'm not saying you have to see it. I'm not saying it's must see. I'm not saying it's great, but I am saying there's something that really warms my heart, and that gladdens me about the fact that it was made, and the fact that it was made in a way that seemed to be, the spirit of it was not to be divisive, not to stick it to anybody, not to check any boxes, not to virtue signal in any way. And of course, once again, we see, you go on Rotten Tomatoes, which I don't do anymore because I fucking hate critics these days. But huge gaping hole between the audience score and the critics score. The critics give it 61% favorable, which is better than I thought they might give it, in all fairness. But the audience score is 96%. So just like with the Dave Chappelle special, where all the audience loved it and thought it was really, really funny because they just like to laugh, versus the critics who were like, ooh, it's transphobic. I don't like this. And who gave it low scores for that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, this Fauci movie, this Fauci documentary, where all the critics, the critical response was like 95% positive versus like 4% positive from the audiences. Once again, we see another repeat of this cleavage, this bifurcation between the average moviegoer and those who would think of themselves as the critical ruling class. So anyhow, those are my thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife. Let me know what you think. Did you see it? Do you plan to see it? Leave me your comments below. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy Nowicki. Please check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.